whatever the product was down in Tampa, Florida today, number 10 Alabama beats South Florida 17-3. Guys, Alabama didn't look like a top 10 team. They didn't look like a top 25 team. Trey, this looked like a Crimson Tide team that is cruising towards an 8-4 record at best. And if you watch that game, you know that is not an exaggeration. We'll talk about the quarterback play in just a moment, but if you're watching this on YouTube, on screen right now, 107 passing yards. Some of that can be explained by the monsoon that rolled through in the first half. But Trey, I mean, two different quarterbacks for Alabama. Both of them looked like they should be cut tomorrow if Alabama intends to compete for a national title. I mean, this was as uncharacteristic of a performance from a Nick Saban team as we've seen since 2007.
Yeah, weird situation. We highlighted how this was a weird road game for them in Tampa. Got even weirder with the monsoon that rolls through, the weather delay when I can't remember if they were tied 3-3, if they were down 3-0 when that happened, but very early on in the game. And, they just can't find rhythm on the offensive side of the ball right now. And that's what we were concerned about. You talk about coordinator problems. Tommy Rees, we scratched our heads at this show when that was announced as the offensive coordinator hire for Nick Saban's Alabama team. That's just such a step down when you think about just the pedigree that he's had on the offensive side of the ball, especially from his coordinators, Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin, the just plethora of amazing play callers he's had over the last decade. And then you couple that with the lack of quarterback talent. It's a big, big red flag, right? It's a big, big red flag if you're an Alabama fan. And I would be really concerned if I was a fan of Alabama right now about what Nick Saban's going to be able to do to patchwork this year, because the solution is not on the roster at quarterback. I think we can say that now. And I think that's the downside of this game, and the downside of throwing those two guys into this game is, Tyler Buckner and Simpson did not look the part. And they can definitely improve as the season goes on, as they get more experience. But you have to think that the solution at quarterback is not on the roster right now. And that has to really scare you, because Saban's going to somehow have to patchwork this together if they're going to do anything this year. And it's going to have to be defense, running the football. And I just don't think that that's going to win consistently when you think about the high-powered offenses they're going to have to go up against. Are they going to be able to keep up with an Ole Miss? Are they going to be able to keep up with a Texas A&M in College Station that their offense finally looks like it's clicking? Mm-hmm. Are they going to be able to keep up with an LSU that just put up 41 points in Starkville today? I don't think so. This current version of Alabama, unless they have the best defensive game plan and just play lights out on defense every week, it's going to be the worst season we've seen from Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa since his first year.
Garrett, when I look at this Crimson Tide team in pro Alabama fans, I'm talking like national media, right? Experts that also do this for a living. In order for Alabama to succeed, the way that they've explained away the quarterback play is, well, Alabama can just rely on that offensive line. They can run the football. They can ground it out like they did in 2009, 2010, right before Saban finally updated his play calling. That's not true, though, this year. This offensive line, despite the veteran presence that they have on board, they're struggling. USF was getting into the backfield kind of with ease. I think they had three. I think they had 3 sacks. Alabama had 4 sacks, but the quarterback pressures were coming relatively often. I'm very concerned about Alabama's ability to compete with most teams in the SEC West, not just, the LSUs, but really anybody if they don't get better play from the trenches.
And this is a team that shouldn't struggle with that, right? This is a team that,
Right.
We've seen all this is one of the best rosters of all time. They have, 3 of the 4 best classes of all time on their campus. And these guys are all elite and everything's amazing. And so they shouldn't struggle to, beat up the 131st out of 131 scoring defenses last year, right? The USF had one of the worst defenses in the entire country last year, if not the absolute worst. And they struggled to hold them off on the line of scrimmage with some of these incredibly talented athletes. Now, look, I was super impressed with, I don't know their names, but 4-0 and pass rush for USF. They looked great. They were really good players, looked pretty slick. They were giving them, whoever the quarterback was back there, problems. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to outplay these small teams that you go and you schedule and you pay them a bunch of money and whatever else, right? You have to be able to outplay these teams just based on talent alone. You're supposed to be able to do this, and Bama didn't get it done today. And so, look, I think we just talked about Georgia. Georgia has we're raising the alarm a little bit. Yeah, we're kind of concerned. Bama is through the roof. You don't have a quarterback on your roster. You've seen 3 of them now, and one of them couldn't pass the ball at all. The other 2 today, they got outpassed by Byron Brown.
Yikes.
He passed for 87 yards, and he outpassed both Ty Simpson and Tyler Buckner. Ultimately, Williams gets the carries and scores for Bama. But look, if you're Bama, you got problems. You got some issues. You gotta address it. If you don't have a quarterback, you have problems. If you don't have an offensive line that can keep people off you, you have problems.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem like they've had any real playmakers step up on a week-to-week basis to show that they can be that guy. And the defense has been great, but they didn't look that good against Texas. And Texas struggled a little bit tonight against Wyoming for a while. It eventually pulled away, but didn't look like the same Texas team that looked like last week. So I don't know what you do if you're Alabama. It's time for the alarms, and it's time for kind of Nick Saban to make his stake known. This doesn't affect the fact that he's the best coach of all time, but I think it's fair to ask if Bama is over. I think there's a chance that the Bama dynasty is over at this point.
There's a good chance, for sure.
Gracious, how about